Israel just potentially stopped the next October 7th massacre in a dramatic operation. A massive Hamas terror network in Bethlehem, over 50 operatives, was planning imminent attacks on civilians and soldiers. One cell was in the final stage, ready to strike. They said Hamas wasn't in Judea and Samaria. They were wrong. And if Israel didn't have the access to that area, this could have ended in tragedy. This story and more on today's Judeacation. Ready to make your Jerusalem dream a reality? The Dream Raffle is giving away a $1.2 million luxury apartment in the heart of the city. Enter today for a bonus shot at $15,000 cash. Follow the link in the description and grab your tickets before it's too late. Hey folks, welcome back to Judeacation here on JNS TV. We're going to talk about so-called settler violence later in the show. I definitely want to get to that. But top story per the intro, a massive terrorist attack or series of terrorist attacks thwarted by Israel security forces. I'm talking about commandos in the IDF, the Israeli Special Forces Police, stopping this terrorist cell of over 50 operatives in Bethlehem that's under the full control of the Palestinian Authority, what's called Area A. And thank God this was thwarted. This could have been a mass casualty incident or series of incidents, perhaps even on the scale of October the 7th. So major news here coming out of the IDF, announced by the IDF, announced by Israel's police. The network had planned to carry out shootings targeting Israeli security forces and civilians, with one cell at an advanced stage of readiness to carry these attacks out. According to the Shin Israel Security Services, senior members of the network recruited and established terror cells, procured weapons, and planned shooting attacks targeting Israeli civilians and security personnel. The dismantling of the terror network prevented major planned shootings and bombings that could have resulted in significant loss of civilian and military life, according to the Shin Bet Security Agency. Number one, how many times do I have to say this? Stop saying Hamas doesn't exist in Judea and Samaria. Stop saying Hamas only exists in Gaza. The Israel haters blame the IDF for saving lives, for carrying out counterterrorism operations throughout Judea and Samaria targeting Hamas. It's not true. Hamas exists, is very established in Judea and Samaria. So that's first of all. Secondly, thank God. Thank God this attack or series of attacks was foiled. We realized back in 2002 that Israel must have access to the PA-controlled areas. I'm talking about the major cities, Bethlehem, Tulkarem, Jenin, Shechem, Ramallah, Jericho. Israel must have access to those towns. The IDF is present there on a daily basis, on a nightly basis, going in, making arrests, thwarting terrorism. Over 90%, if not 95% of these planned attacks are thwarted by the IDF, by the anti-terror police, the forces, even though they don't get reported. We're not allowed to know all the details, but thank God for the IDF. Because we didn't have a presence in Gaza on October the 7th, that's what happened. From 2005 until October the 7th, there were no IDF boots on the ground. There were no communities. That's how Hamas was able to establish the underground city of terror tunnels. That's how they were able to fire thousands and thousands of rockets and missiles at Israeli population centers, hiding behind their own population. They were able to do this because we were not present. So thank God we have a presence in Judea and Samaria, and let's keep thwarting these attacks. And let's deal with terrorism once and for all, okay, in Judea and Samaria. At the same time, the IDF says troops killed 2 Arabs who were on their way to carry out a terrorist attack near the Gush Etzion community of Karmei Tzur several days ago. The pair were shot dead by soldiers of the 636 Combat Intelligence Collection Unit who are waiting in ambush in the area. The IDF, of course, can't elaborate on what the suspects were planning, but that attack was thwarted. And at the same time, in southern Jerusalem, just 3 minutes away from where we're sitting at the JNS Media Hub, in the neighborhood of Beit Safafa, which supposedly is a quiet, peaceful area, it's a neighborhood just right here in southern Jerusalem, an Arab neighborhood, 2 Arabs were arrested for pledging their allegiance to ISIS, and they were planning what they called an end-of-days mega attack targeting Jews in Israel. So thank God that terror cell, those who pledged their allegiance to ISIS, thank God they were arrested. So thank God once again, I can't stop saying it, for the IDF, for their presence 24/7 in these areas, along with all the other security forces. I received this press release last night. Again, we're going to talk about alleged settler violence, so-called, later on in the show. But two incidents within hours in the Binyamin area, which is just north of Jerusalem. Number one, terrorists attempted to infiltrate a farm and were stopped, while others, this is the second incident, poisoned an Israeli herd, and they were arrested. So taking advantage of the olive season, which we've talked about on the show, this is still the olive harvest season, and the public distraction caused by the settler violence campaign, which is the focus of the world, two serious incidents occurred last night, Saturday night, in Binyamin, an attempted infiltration and poisoning of goats at a farm. According to the Binyamin Regional Council, in the morning hours, terrorists from the hostile village of Al-Mu'ayyir reached the grazing area of the Mitzudat David farm in eastern Binyamin and scattered poisoned dates intending to kill an Israeli herd. Targeting animals, this is what they do. The Israeli shepherd noticed what was happening and immediately alerted the police. Officers arrested a suspect whom the shepherd identified as one of the terrorists. And this is the same area where the IDF recently cleared olive trees, which everyone went crazy about, the world community, an operation that angered left-wing radical activists, anarchists, who said this was collective punishment. So thank God we didn't listen to them and we took down those trees. A land coordinator from the Binyamin Regional Council who was at the scene noted that thanks to the clearing, the terrorists focused on the farm rather than on the nearby Alon Road, and that the clearing operation enabled the quick arrest of the suspects. So that was necessary to clear that area in order to prevent terrorism. Earlier in the evening, Saturday evening, an infiltration attempt took place in the Beit Karnaim farm, that's in western Binyamin. Several Arabs arrived at the farm in a Jeep and an ATV after the farmers spotted them and carried out a suspect arrest procedure, which included firing warning shots into the air. The suspects fled. Their vehicle veered into a ditch during the escape, and they abandoned both vehicles, security forces searching the area in an effort to apprehend them. The governor of the Binyamin region, Israel Gantz, said the following: "The recent events once again remind us who our enemies are and what they intend to do. I thank the security forces, the IDF, the police for their swift action to protect our residents. I call on decision makers to recognize the threat and intensify operations on the ground. Today, it was an attempted attack on a farm. Tomorrow, it could be a rocket fired at a city in Israel's heartland. We must wake up." Folks, Israel has a ceasefire with Hamas in Gaza. There's a ceasefire on the northern border. Judea and Samaria is now officially, I would say, the front lines of this war. And thank God, Israel is thwarting these attacks. But we have to be vigilant at all times. This could explode, God forbid, but at any second. And now I'm saying, and I think a fourth time, thank God that we're thwarting these attacks, but we must be vigilant. We must realize that our enemies are trying to harm us in Judea, Samaria, Jerusalem, the Beit Safafa story, the two Arabs who pledged their allegiance to ISIS. This is our reality, and I pray that we are awake. According to this report by JNS, the IDF has wrapped up a major drill held this week in Judea and Samaria involving both the Judea and Samaria division and the newly established 96 Gilad division, the latter of which is tasked with securing the Jordanian border. We have to be secure on that border as well. It was a 3-day exercise. It simulated some 40 extreme scenarios, involved Israeli Air Force. 180 aircraft were involved in this as well. Technological and Logistics Directorate, other IDF units, as well as police, Magen David Adom, ambulance, emergency services. So just a major exercise in Judea and Samaria. Being alert using the Air Force for any type of scenario that Israel might encounter in Judea and Samaria. Let's talk about Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority, who's trying to stay relevant as time goes on, and more people realize he's not relevant. Not everyone, but I believe more and more people realize the Palestinian Authority is not a solution to Israel's security needs, whether in Gaza or in Judea and Samaria. Mahmoud Abbas, he was given a title by the French president, Emmanuel Macron. He was called the Prince of Peace. Mahmoud Abbas making the rounds, traveling to world capitals, trying to stay relevant. Visits with French President Emmanuel Macron this past Thursday. Prime Minister Netanyahu condemning Macron for embracing Abbas, the head of the PA, as Macron labeled him, dubbed him the Prince of Peace, following their meeting in Paris. The Prime Minister said to bring in such a person, embrace him, and say you're the Prince of Peace is the opposite of reality. It's false. Netanyahu telling Australian reporter Aaron Molan of the Aaron Molan Show podcast this past Thursday. Netanyahu continued, you cannot build peace on falsehoods. Sooner or later, these falsehoods crash on the rocks of Middle East reality. The reality is, Netanyahu continued, that the Palestinian leader Abbas, right now in Paris, pays terrorists to kill Jews. The more Jews they kill, the more they get paid. And the PA also takes care of their families. This, of course, is the pay-to-slay program, which still exists. Don't be fooled into thinking that pay-to-slay is not just an essential part of the Palestinian Authority, essential in their budget. They kind of reworked it to appear as if they canceled pay-to-slay. Pay-to-slay is alive and active, and Mahmoud Abbas is in charge of that, yet he is dubbed the Prince of Peace for paying terrorists and their families to murder Israelis. And just talking about how they have played games in order to make it appear like this was canceled, a reform mechanism brands terrorist stipends as welfare support. They relabeled what this is in their budget, thinking they could fool the international community, and a lot of times they actually have. A lot of people think this is welfare support. It's not paying terrorists. It's the same exact thing, though. Okay, the payment allocation system was transferred from an official PA ministry to an independent foundation under Ramallah's control. That's how they avert the condemnation for pay-to-slay. They transferred, essentially, where the budget comes from, some sort of independent foundation. This is all a ruse, okay? This is all under the control of Mahmoud Abbas, who has said he will not deduct a single penny from the pay-to-slay fund. Prime Minister Netanyahu adding during his talk with Aaron Molan that during the 21 years Abbas has remained in what began as a 4-year term. Remember, he's on the 21st year of a 4-year term. Ramallah has continued naming squares after terrorist mass murderers and using school textbooks that call for the destruction of the state of Israel. The Prime Minister said his advice to Macron is learn the facts, stick to the facts, stick to realities, and don't try to escape it. When you look at the facts, the force for peace, the force for stability, for progress is not the Palestinian Authority, but Israel. And I fear, as we move forward, that more and more countries will try to continue down this path of so-called two-state solution. And we know some countries already unilaterally recognizing Australia, France, Canada, a so-called Palestinian state. But giving this terrorist in a suit legitimacy won't lead to peace. Somebody who pays terrorists to murder Jews proudly, saying not one penny will he take away from that plan, from that program, that is not somebody who is interested in peace. So shame on Macron also for calling him a Prince of Peace. And again, just to be clear, the Palestinian Authority should go once and for all. They are terrorists in suits. They are the same as Hamas, but just as bad or maybe even worse because they're pretending they want peace. They're fooling everyone, and they certainly don't. All right, let's get to it, folks. Let's talk about this alleged settler violence. All right, and the first thing I want to do is read some headlines to you from the media this week, various media sources. Let's take all of these in. Number one, settlers torch West Bank mosque, scrawl hateful messages after IDF leaders reproach. That's headline number one. Number two, Israeli settlers torch mosque and spray graffiti in latest West Bank attack. And number three, Jewish settlers set fire to Palestinian mosque as West Bank violence runs rampant. Now, we've talked about fake settler violence many times before. You know, when Arabs set their own fields on fire and then blame the Jews. When the IDF kills a terrorist, according to the UN, that's called settler violence, and so on. The word settler implies that we're talking about someone from Judea and Samaria, and that is a derogatory term. You should be proud to settle the land of Israel, but that's now derogatory. I'm proud to live in Judea and Samaria and settle the land. Okay, that's positive. The media has turned this into something dirty. Now, let's be clear here. I have no problem saying it's wrong to vandalize a mosque. I don't have a problem saying that. But how do you know what happened in these three incidents, those headlines that I read? How do you know for certain this was carried out by a resident of Judea and Samaria? Did someone catch these people and check their ID to find out where they're from? In other words, if a radical Israeli from the greater Tel Aviv area drove out and did these things, which you can feel free to condemn, which the leadership of Israel does condemn time and time again, these people are automatically assumed to be residents of Judea and Samaria. What these headlines show you is it doesn't matter what the truth is. It says, let's put all 500,000 residents in Judea and Samaria, if you count those Jews in Jerusalem, who are also considered to be on the other side of a fake green line, then you're talking about 750,000 people. Let's put them all in the same boat and blame them all for everything that goes wrong. Again, all three of these headlines, settlers torch, Israeli settlers torch, Jewish settlers set fire. We don't know at this point where they are from. I could be naive, but there's no proof right now, unless arrests are made. You want to arrest people who carry out vigilante actions, that's a different story. But automatically creating headlines without knowing who carried these out, you didn't check their IDs, you don't know for sure that they are residents of Judea and Samaria. The goal here, and this is my point, in these headlines, the goal is to demonize all 500,000 people. Folks, you're talking about several hundred people. You're talking about several hundred misguided youth. And in a lot of other cases, those youth who aren't misguiding, who are simply living in Judea and Samaria, who are doing such amazing things, building the land of Israel, building beautiful farms, and just entrenched in the land, making sure that the Arabs don't continue their illegal takeover of Area C, which has been happening since 2009 in the Fayyad Plan, which calls for that action. The Palestinian Authority, PM, Prime Minister, calling, and there you can go online and look this up, calling for the illegal, they don't say it's illegal conquest of Jewish lands, state lands in Area C. And that's their goal, to take them over. And without these farms, the Arabs would illegally take over areas under Jewish control. So on one hand, you have that group. And then on the other hand, you have several hundred people. And somehow the microscopes are out on these 300 individuals, let's say, out of 500,000. They're the ones who are, 0.001%. They're the ones who are under the magnifying glass of the entire international community. Forget about the thousands of attacks Arabs carry out against Jews. In last year alone, I think I said it last week, 7,000 plus attacks by Arabs targeting Jews in Judea and Samaria and other parts of the country. Yet we're talking about 0.0001%, several hundred people who you can justify and say should be arrested. And I'll give you that, who are taking the law into their own hands. But enforce the law, make arrests. Don't put all of us in the same category and demonize us all if these reports are accurate. So this week, folks, this has been the focus. All you have to do is type in your Google browser there, settler violence or West Bank. All these terms, you can put them in and see hundreds of articles from news wires, from media outlets, both in Israel and, of course, around the world, putting all 500,000 Jews, pioneers who serve in the army, who are loyal, law-abiding members of this country, putting them all in the same category. And that's really what gets under my skin the fact that these are international headlines and not the fact that, as I talked about just a few minutes ago, Arabs planning massive attacks originating in Jerusalem, originating in Bethlehem, all these areas. That doesn't make the front page. Those are not international headlines. You may read them on page 2. You may read them, if at all, somewhere else in the paper. But these Jews, settler violence, they're the ones who are making international headlines, even if it's just a minuscule of the population and doesn't represent the other 99.99% of Jews who live in Judea and Samaria. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Judeacation here on JNS TV. My name is Josh Hasten, correspondent for JNS News. Make sure you go to JNS TV, folks. Check out all the amazing content which JNS provides on a daily basis. Also, go to jns.org for all the latest breaking news from Israel, the Middle East, and the entire Jewish world. I want to thank the people behind the cameras here, Ryan Lifshitz, Esther Eden, our producer, Zach Sickerman, and station manager Yuri Svertsky. Have a great week. Be safe, everyone. We'll see you next week here on Judeacation on JNS TV.